Cheers. Talking about mental health and winning Rumble matches. That's what I'm all about, yo. Oh, get out of here. Woo! Come on, poke your head up. Poke your head up. Yeah, get out of here. Not in my house, baby. Boom. Let's go. Let's go. Dr. Mick, don't play. Come on. You want to poke your head out? Want me to see you? Come here. Come here. Get out of here.
You have my respect.
Oh, he's one shot. Come on, poke your head out. All right, I'll take it. Look at you, dude. You look great. Look,
I'm gonna need to pull up your stream just to see what this looks like.
Yeah,
okay.
dude, you look.
Oh, I look awesome.
Look how awesome Logro looks. This is fabulous. You are ready to golf, my dude. Do you have a hard time dealing with client issues that are a bit too close to home? Something that you've experienced yourself or emotional scars that you may have? Yeah, that's called countertransference. There's actually a term for that. You know, I think every therapist struggles with that. Every therapist has a hard time working with stuff that hits close to home. And if something hits too close to home, it is actually a therapist's ethical responsibility to refer their client out. Because if they are constrained from being able to work effectively with them or work ethically with them, we just have to be aware of that. What people don't think about with children a lot, and I talk about this in human development, is when a child is uncomfortable or is crying, there's a good chance that that is literally the worst thing that the child has ever experienced in their life. If you poke an infant in the foot with something sharp, that is the most pain that that child has ever felt in their entire existence. And so think about that for a second. As an adult, if you all of a sudden were exposed to the most uncomfortable, painful thing that you've ever been exposed to in your entire life, you would probably cry or dysregulate. But what adults tend to do is they look at a kid who dysregulates because, or they gets really sad or is hurt because whatever, they fell and scraped their knee, and they use their adult way to make sense of that. So they think, well, that's not so bad. It's a scratched knee. Jesus, I've seen people get shot in the head or whatever. That's nothing. And they put that on the kid. And so the kid who's experiencing literally the worst thing they've ever experienced in their life because they don't have 40 years of human experience to throw into the container so that they can make sense of what's happened to them, has just then been invalidated for the fact that that's the worst thing they ever experienced. Can you say what the hardest thing for you is to deal with clients, or is that overstepping the boundaries as a therapist? No, I can say that, LJJ. The hardest thing for me, I think, is when, and this is not a slight on anybody that I work with, this is more of just human nature. What's hard as a therapist is working with people who don't actually want to change. So they come in and they kind of say like they want everything else to change, but they don't want to take accountability for their involvement in it. I think that is really difficult to manage and deal with, but I don't get that very often. I mean, that's not, I mean, I tell people pretty much point blank, like, I'm here to work. I want to help you work. I want to make sure that we're on a track that feels meaningful for you. So I'm all about feedback and making sure that people are, you know, enjoying their work with me, or at least find it to be meaningful. That's awesome. The thing is, like, I worry sometimes on Twitch, and I'm not talking, I just want to be very clear right now. I am not talking about anybody. What? I really just got that kill. That kill was so good that it just crashed my game. But remember to jump because you're in the rough. Oh no, he hit his driver!
That was a mistake. I thought I had the putter.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I don't even know where your sign is. You're in the fairway, but I don't know which fairway. Okay, so it was going on this trajectory. And you hit your driver. I have no idea how far you blasted that.
Here it is. Come here. Come here. You're never going to believe this, dude.
It's under the sign. Oh, it replaced the stick that it was on. Are you kidding me? Oh my god, dude.
I think, why don't I just like raid you real quick and we can just keep going.
Okay.
And then we can all be in one chat and hang out with you because you're going to be on much longer than me tonight. I swear I know what I'm doing.
All right. So now, okay. So now I got a flashy new. There you are. Look at that. Beautiful.
Hey, that looks, you even put my name up there, dude. That looks so
Dude,
cool.
I told you I had it all set up for you. Dude,
Oh.
for you to have gotten a double bogey after the way that hole went, oh my God. That is the
insane.
most impressive double bogey I think I have ever seen in this game. That was epic. You have 180 yards. We swung the 6. Let's see what we got. The bounce.
Bam, baby.
Oh!
Stop.
Oh, that was good. That was a good
Take
shot.
it.
That was a really good shot. Come on, baby.
You got this.
Get up there. Get up the hill.
You're
Give
up
me
the
that.
hill.
Give me that
You're
bounce.
close.
Get it. Oh no. Oh, it was so
Brutal.
close. It was so close. Yo, crying happens. When we get emotional, we cry. It's just, I think a lot of the times when people hear messages about how you shouldn't feel or be sensitive, I think a lot of times, especially for parents, it's because when their child feels something and is really sensitive to it, parents don't know what to do. Parents dysregulate. And there's sometimes a sense of helplessness around that. And it makes people uncomfortable. Sensitivity. So sensitivity and a person really engaging in their emotional experience brings everything to the present. Okay? And when things are brought to the present and people have to attend to the present, they often get uncomfortable because we spend a lot of time thinking about the past or what's going to happen. And so when you have to talk about the here and now, there's an immediacy to it. Sometimes for people, when it pulls on that anxiety, it elicits a fight or flight response or a freeze response, and people hate it. But I think to make it a goal to change your feelings is not a useful goal. So one of the things that happens, Coder, one of the ways that people manage their emotions sometimes is to numb them and to not acknowledge them. And unfortunately, the human brain has not evolved to a point yet where we can selectively mute feelings. So if you try to shut off anxiety and you try to shut off depression and you try to go numb, you also shut off happiness, you shut off joy, you shut off pride. It becomes hard to feel much of anything. And so numbness just kind of like takes over and people will be like, oh man, I just wish I could be happy. But a lot of times the reason you can't be happy is because you haven't allowed yourself to be sad. You could say you want to change your feelings, but like you're set up for failure. So what I say to people all the time is like, okay, your emotional experience is what it is. You can still choose what to do despite the fact that you feel this way. And so let's talk about what that could be. Is there such thing as divorce therapy? Yeah, you could have therapy for people trying to go through an amicable divorce. There's also divorce mediation. Those are not the same, by the way. A mediator is not a therapist generally. So, although you can have therapists who do mediation, but there are dedicated mediators that aren't therapists. But yes, there is. I've actually, I have personally worked with couples that knew they were going to break up but had a lot at stake in the breakup, and so they wanted to make sure they did it right and that they did it well. And I really, really, really admire people who can do that, especially couples that have kids. That really care about their kids' experience of the breakup. They know they need to break up, but they also want to make sure that their kids are okay. Breakups are the worst pain we've ever felt in our life because it's a severance of an attachment. And our attachment figure is where we go when we are experiencing discomfort. We seek proximity to our attachment figures when we're uncomfortable. If your attachment figure is the source of the pain, it is immensely horrible to want to seek proximity to the person who hurt you and not be able to do it. So you're sent into this attachment spiral that's like absolutely horrible. That's what makes breakups so terrible, especially when it's not on your terms, but even when it is on your terms. That's the thing. It's the difference between do you know something conceptually and do you know something experientially. You are the expert on your own experience. Nobody should ever tell you what you're feeling. You feel how you feel. And so we could know conceptually about things. I could know how certain parts of the world work. I can know how anxiety works, but at the same time, like I can't describe your anxiety for you. So I, as a therapist, conceptually know how anxiety works, but I'm going to ask you what your experience is of it. It's the same thing with other forms of competence, multicultural competence. You know, I'm not gay. I know what it means to be gay. I know plenty of people who are, and I conceptually understand what it is to be gay, but I experientially, I'm not gay, so I don't have that experience. But if I have a gay client, or if I have a gay friend even, I'm not going to assume their experience. I could know a little bit about what it means to be gay and what it's like to have institutional oppression and all that stuff for being gay, but it's on me to ask what a person's experience of being gay is like, rather than making an assumption of their experience of it. Thing that we need to separate. It's a very important thing to do, and if you can do that in your own life, it's going to take you a long way. So when our brains experience cognitive dissonance, which is basically where our expectations and our experience do not align, creates dissonance, or holding two conflicting viewpoints at the same time, but we're talking about the intersection of expectation and experience. When those things don't align, what happens is it causes cognitive dissonance, which we experience as, generally, we experience anxiety when we have cognitive dissonance. And so what our brain does is it goes into a state of what's called aversive arousal. Aversive arousal basically being a synonym for anxiety. So it makes us anxious. Okay. When we go into aversive arousal, what happens is we have a choice that our brain makes. And it's generally between two things, but there are actually a third and a fourth. It's to assimilate or accommodate. So assimilation is if you take your experience and you basically try to fit your experience into what your expectation is. Okay. So for example, if I walk outside and I expect the sky to be blue, and I walk outside and the sky is purple, that's going to cause dissonance because I was expecting blue, my experience is purple. Okay? So what happens is my brain has a choice to make. What it's probably going to do is it's probably going to assimilate. And so what it's going to try to do is I'm going to try to make up an explanation that allows the expectation to stay the same. So for example, I might say, I must be dreaming. Because if I'm dreaming, it means that the sky is still blue. It's just that something's happening where I'm dreaming, and that makes it so that something abstract can happen, okay? So that's assimilation. Accommodation would be if I changed my expectation as the result of my experience. And so what that would look like is I would say, wow, okay, maybe the sky is not always blue. Maybe the sky is sometimes purple. And what that does is either one of those options, what that allows us to do is it allows our brain to settle down and get away from anxiety. So if I know it's because I'm dreaming, cool, all right, I can make sense of that. Purple sky no longer freaks me out, okay? Or if I could say, you know what? Yeah, maybe the sky's not always blue. Again, anxiety goes down because all of a sudden I can make sense of it. So when I say, but the thing is as we get older, as the brain gets older and has less plasticity, accommodation becomes way more difficult. So after you hit like between 26 to 30 years old, accommodation starts to kind of drop off in terms of your ability to do it effectively and to do it often. It becomes more effortful. You can still do it, it just requires more energy. In part because you start to have a whole bunch of lifetime experience that is going into your understanding of pattern, and it's been kind of a consistent thing. Okay. So, if for the majority of your life, if when I'd say I'm in my apartment and when I'm in my space, I'm safe, okay? I have an expectation of safety in my home. If somebody forced their way into my apartment right now and beat the shit out of me, that would be a gross violation of my expectation of safety in my apartment, which, depending on who you are, in my case it probably would, constitute a trauma. So then what happens is our brains post-trauma have to try to decide how they're going to make sense of that really, really intense and viscerally felt dissonance. And what people will tend to do, and what kind of research shows people tend to do, is they try to assimilate their post-trauma, like the trauma, into their pre-trauma expectation. Or if that just doesn't work because the violation is so gross, then what you have is forced accommodation, meaning that I'm forced to change my expectations of the world. So all of a sudden, I've been forced to conceptualize and expect my apartment to not be safe. And so now all of a sudden, because I have an expanded, accommodated worldview of my apartment that has been forced upon me, if I hear something that seems to send off a signal that I may not be safe in my apartment, I'm going to have a trauma response to that, or I'm going to be triggered, because what it's doing is it's basically like that experience is aligning with an expectation that has been forced to that has been forced through accommodation.
A driver.
Damn, you look good in that golf attire. Can I just say, you look professional. No, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. All right. We're gonna go right at it. Lets it fly. Puts a good swing on it. Felt really good coming off the club face. That's got to get a bounce. Get a bounce. Oh. Oh. Damn. Come on. Yeah, what a putt. What a putt, baby.
So remember, like Dr. Mick always says, you matter. Your experiences matter. All right, sorry, your experiences are valid.
There we go.
And don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise.
My man.